All right, Gillian. Hey, congratulations on your new film, Lucky Star.
Thank you so much.
This is a very fascinating, dramatic film, but more of a congratulations is being showcased this year at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival. How does it feel for you?
It feels amazing to be down here. First of all, it's like the most cute town I've ever been to. I've never been here before. I've been to LA once, but it's amazing. And the other films that are here are really high caliber. And I'm going to be on a panel tomorrow for crafting the screenplay. And there's another filmmaker on there whose work I've admired for a long time. So it's just really nice to do the fun part, which is showing the work, meeting other people, and getting to meet the filmmakers who you admire.
Yeah, you crafted a brilliant story. And speaking of screenplays, let's talk about this film. Where the original idea came from for Lucky Star?
So the idea came from two places. The first one, I actually had the first idea when I was in university. So I went to university to be a chemical engineer. That was my degree. And I noticed a lot of not flagrant cheating, but just people trying to make things easier for themselves. And I just had this idea, like, what if a top student got caught for cheating? What would happen? And what if her family did everything they could to protect her from getting expelled? And as I developed the story more, I became more interested in the parents rather than the daughter in this situation. And so as I focused more on the parents and then more on the father in this family, I was inspired by a family legend of my own where in my family, there's a story that my great grandfather, who lived in Calgary, Canada, gambled away an entire block of Chinatown in a night of cards. And I have no idea if that's true or not, but I just really like this idea of combining these two elements. A father who has his own issues, but then is both judged and understood by his children. So in this case, a daughter who might be cheating. So that was the genesis of Lucky Star.
So in this case, when you crafted the character, it seems like he has a gambling addiction, but however, he's trying to do everything he can to get out of a very bad situation.
Hmm. Uh, I think Terry Chen, who plays Lucky, he said it perfectly. He said he's doing his very best in the worst way possible. So what I was interested by with Lucky is that he's always trying to find the quick fix. So something which is going to solve his problems immediately, but it doesn't have the long-term gains. And I think too, something I was interested by is that the more stressed out you get, the more anxious you get. It doesn't actually make you smarter. It often makes you do things which are uh, less rational. So as we stick with Lucky's story, we see him make decisions which want to make us pull our hair out. And in the stories that I heard to inspire Lucky Star, I heard these stories where you're like, oh yeah, this guy did this or that woman did this, and it just makes you go crazy. Like, why would they do that? Um, and so that was something that I was really interested in, is uncovering the thought patterns and character of a person who makes decisions that make you want to like throw your hands up and be like, get out of here, like leave him, or why doesn't he get his act together? Why doesn't he get his act together? So those are questions I was interested by.
Now, can you tell about a little bit about the research behind gambling and card playing for yourself?
Hmm. I was really interested in, okay, once I decided that Lucky was playing like a gambler, it was important to me that he play poker and in-person poker because it just matched his psychology a lot more, which is he thinks that he can play the person against him rather than playing online poker where it's very anonymous. You can be playing like multiple games at a time. It's totally, totally different. So I actually played poker myself. I wouldn't consider myself a player, but I did a period of research where I went out and played in Calgary's scene, which involved both going to the casino. So I worked with a professional poker player, and I would go to the casino with him and watch him play, and he would talk to me about the scene. But then I would also go to games that they're not like super shady, but you have to ask people how to get into them. So then I would go to like an underground game and watch what that was like. And this was happening in a guy's basement. He's a dad, there's kids' toys upstairs, but then there's like 50 people in his basement playing poker. And that was really interesting for me. Like, this isn't sexy Las Vegas. This is like the middle of Canada in the middle of winter at the edge of a suburb in a dad's basement. Like, that was the energy that I wanted to bring to Lucky Star. It wasn't this glamour. I wanted to show this sort of like working man poker playing. And so while I didn't win any money, and like I said, I'm not very good, I just like the energy that it informed me of.
Is the energy and vibe a whole lot different when you're doing these type of backroom poker games than a casino?
Well, okay, and I want to be clear, like I wasn't going to big money games. I wasn't going to a game where it's like you need to have $50,000 buy-ins. Like, it was
Yeah.
more for fun. It was more about the community stuff. Like $100 buy-ins. Like, this is very small stakes.
Hmm.
It does feel different. It feels different because a casino, there is an element where it's legal. At least in Canada, there are casinos everywhere. It's not hard, at least where I'm from, it's not hard to go to a casino. There are other things going on. It's not just poker. You could be playing baccarat or roulette. There's also fundraising that happens in casinos. But when you're going to somebody's private residence, even when it's wholesome, there is an element of you're hiding something. It's not visible to the public. And so I think there is an edge to it that I really liked for this story. Just hidden right underneath the surface is something not outright criminal, but something which we want to hide, much like an addiction.
Hmm. Well said. Well said. Now, you put Lucky into certain circumstances, with either with taxes and so on, which I'm not going to reveal. But in his case, it almost seems like it's a very deep hole to actually dig out of, and not to mention that it affects, his entire family, throughout the entire interaction. Can you talk about that humanistic side of things that you wanted to portray in your film?
I First and foremost, I wanted to make a family drama. It was I just couldn't have made this film without bringing in the family element. So his wife, his two daughters, and his friends, their family community. Um, so when I thought about the situation that Lucky's in, so being late on his taxes, owing money for his business because he was over leveraged, those are things which I find deeply relatable because uh, whether I've been in that situation, I know people who are in that situation, and I overhear people talking about these things all the time. So I knew that there would be some element of like immediate connection for people where they could see themselves in Lucky's situation and then ask themselves, well, what would I do? And that's something I'm really interested in with audience engagement, is them to ask, well, what would I do in that situation? Whether that's like, I would not do that, therefore I judge him, or, oh, I have done that, I relate to him. But something that also interested me is that the amount of money that is causing them grief is not insurmountable. I was really interested by a sum of money which can totally wreck their stability, but it's not so insurmountable that they then, have to they don't become impoverished through it. Like, there are, and I did introduce solutions which, while not great, like they could pursue to start to make their money back. So those were things I was interested in as well. Again, this everyman sort of situation and relatability, that he would lose money and it's horrible and it's going to cause a lot of grief, but they're not going to be on the street selling drugs the next day.
Mhm. Do you draw on these type of stories? I understand this is what your second feature film,
Mhm.
and usually your I want to say your previous film, Circle of Steel,
That's right.
was also sort of like a drama situation.
Mhm. Oh, so do I like dramatic
Yeah,
films?
yeah, that basically pit these families in these certain situations that they try to get out of.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I'm interested in the epic home dramas. But as I continue to be a filmmaker and progress in my craft and in my art, I think I'm moving away from just having like the stripped down family drama or the workplace drama. I am really interested in taking the specificity of those lived experiences and applying them to genres. So for my next project, I'm really interested in a small town crime drama with the family element. So, what happens when there's a horrible murder that wrecks a family? So we all know, like, we all know this sort of story. Like, this is familiar to us, but how do I bring the elements of my experience or stories I've heard and make it unique? So that's what I'm interested in next. But like, life is crazy right now. Life is so crazy. It's not hard to pull interesting things from real life.
Yes, you know what? So true. And I no complaints from me, but tell us about crafting this as an Asian story because we don't see a lot of Asian stories, out of cinema.
Well, I'm biracial. My mom's family is Chinese, and I was really interested to explore that side of my family. I have a huge family. I'm very lucky, and my life has been dominated by um my mom's side of the family. And I've heard all sorts of stories. Like we love to gossip, we're loud, we're noisy, and I just knew that I had something really special there. And then with the cultural specificity, I thought that I was bringing something new to Asian American cinema. That being, we're not talking about model minorities. We're seeing the challenges that are actually grinding many of us down in this sort of socioeconomic climate. I wanted to show that not everyone has their shit together, honestly.
Hmm.
I was just
Yeah.
so curious to see someone like this sort of character who I'd heard and seen about when I was growing up, someone who's like really good at car racing and knows how to modify his vehicle and he's really sexy, but he lives in Canada. So there are certain elements about his personality which don't really work with the popular status quo. And I just wanted to see him like what would happen. I've heard a lot of stories about shitty dudes and yet their family stays with them. And that's something which I find very specific to a lot of Asian Americans is that family's number one. It's really hard to abandon your family or just turn them out, which uh, that's just my experience. And so I was curious, how could a family stick by someone like Lucky after he screws up so often and so horribly?
Well, it's a very raw and true story. Let me address one last thing because your casting is brilliant. Bringing in Terry and Olivia. Tell us your path on basically bringing these excellent actors on board onto your indie project.
Well, I've been fans of both Cherry and Olivia for a very, very long time. When I was first writing the script, I was thinking about them. Of course, when you're writing the script, sometimes you're like, I don't know if I'm ever going to get them, but I'm going to think about it. Like Terry, I've seen him since Almost Famous, and I had seen him also on shows like The Expanse, and Olivia, like Warrior, Marco Polo. But also, what I loved about them is they're both from my home province, back home. And so I didn't just go into Google and type like Asian actors from Alberta. It just so happened that they were the perfect fit. But I thought that maybe they would really relate to the story and the setting. So I was first introduced to Terry through an accelerator program, the Canadian Film Center Netflix Development Accelerator. So I was put in touch with a casting agent who put together a table read for me just to invite Asian actors to read my script, and Terry was one of them, and he read for Lucky. So eventually, when we got production financing, I reached out to him again and I said, "You have to make this with me, please, please. Like you're the only person I can imagine." And he luckily said yes. And once I got Terry on board, then it became much easier to round out the rest of the cast. So Olivia, I was like, "Olivia, I love you. I'm such a big fan." I just am writing like these fan letters, right? But Terry is involved, and I think knowing that Terry's involved gets her excited. We had worked with Andrew Fung in the past, so I reached out again to him. And for Connie Mew, who plays the daughter, Grace, we just did a casting, like open casting, general casting, and she blew us away. So aesthetically, they look like a family, but it just all the pieces came together. Right place, right timing for this project.
So true, so true. Your all the pieces did actually fit together, and you made a terrific film with Lucky Star. Well, Jillian, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but it is a great feeling to have your film being premiered here at Santa Barbara. So let's enjoy this film festival, shall we?
Yes, we will. Thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you for your conversation. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Jillian. Next time. Bye now.